Hi, I'm Mary. I'm one of the directors at Anaqsim. In this video, we're just going to run through some of the updates that we've recently made to Anaqsim. So the latest version is 2025-1-1. So the first update we've made, which has been requested by a few people, is the ability to add additional or different background maps compared to just the DXF option that we previously had. So we can now add PNG and TIFF files. You add them the same way as previously, plot input, what to plot, and when you select your base file map, if you look down here, we've now got the option of the original DXF, TIFF, and PNG. So I've got an image here, which I want to bring in as my background. So one of the big differences is that you now need to give georeferencing information for the images and the TIFF files so that Anaqsim knows where to place them in your model. So I know for this one that we want X to be 1000 and Y to be 1000. So they are the coordinates of the lower left-hand corner of your image. And then the width, it tells it how much it wants to kind of stretch or shrink the image. So I know for this particular one, that's 4,600. So I'm going to do apply, make plot. And that image has been brought in and it's in exactly the right place. You can see that this bottom left-hand corner is 1000, 1000. And then this right-hand corner here is, I think, about 5,600, which means that the width is 4,600. So a good little trick if you're trying to export these images from a different program to put in as the background is often in sort of GIS software, at least, you can export very specific sort of extents. So you can make sure that what you're exporting starts at a very nice sort of round number on the left-hand boundary and a round number on the right-hand eastern boundary. And you can use that information to know exactly where your bottom left corner should be. TIFF files work in exactly the same way. I would say they're often a bit larger, and so they take longer to load into Anaqsim. It has to load each time you do the make plot, so you might be worth, if you've got a TIFF file, trying to just take a screenshot of it and convert it to a PNG file, and then that will load faster. Obviously, being in colour isn't always useful because we can't really see the Anaqsim elements. So if you go back to plot input, what to plot, we can change this to grey, make the plot again. Sometimes the change doesn't work first time because it hasn't actually saved the row. So if we go again, there we go, it's in grey now. The second update we've made is to do with creating annotations on your maps. So in the past, people have often used this annotate button here where you can add text or circles or rectangles. However, one of the problems with this situation is that once you've saved and closed Anaqsim, that data isn't actually saved to your file, and so next time you open it, those annotations you spent time creating aren't preserved. So if you want to add annotations now, we would recommend you go to plot input, annotations, which is a new table we've created, and you can fill in details here. If I go back to the plot, we'll see this is a stream, so I'd quite like to have a label on that. So let's go back to this table. I'm going to call it a stream, not in capitals. There we go. Font size, I'll talk about how to get a good idea of what the font size should be in a moment. X and Y, that's the location we want this label to be pointing to. So if I go back to the plot window, you do a right click and digitize point, and then we can click somewhere near the stream. That will have saved those XY coordinates to the clipboard. We'll go back, paste them in, and then we don't actually want the label sitting exactly on top of that point, so we give it a offset so that it's not exactly on top of the stream, and a angle that we want that offset to be. So I'm going to go 120. Let's plot that. Here we are. So we've got the label. We've got this, it's called a little leader line. So this is coming at 120 degrees from north, it's coming out, and then we've got the label. If we changed this angle to something to come out this direction, that would be about 240. So let's go back to data. I think let's go 240. There we go. So it's moved over to the left, and the label has also kind of gone to the left of where that line is. Now I'd quite like another label up here saying island. So I'm going to digitize a point. So that's right click, digitize point. I'd like it about here. Just a reminder of where this table is. If you go to plot input, it's under annotations. So let's call this island. I want the font size to be, let's go for a little bit larger here. I'm going to paste those coordinates in, and I don't really actually want one of those leader lines. I don't want it offset from the point that I've created. The angle still does matter a bit because it tells you where the label is going to be orientated relative to the point. So if I did 90, then the label would be to the right hand, to the east of the point that I digitized. A kind of a safer option is either 0 or 180, because then it'll just lie slightly to the south, but it won't be properly offset. And we can just tick the line off. Make plot. There we go, and we've got a nice big annotation up here. So the size of the font size and the length of the offset, they're all in units that are the same as the kind of measurement unit that you are using in your model, the length unit. So I think we're working in meters here. This had a font size, if we go back, of 75. And what that means is if you measure the distance from the top to the bottom of this label, that would be 75 meters in my model. And similarly, this one would be 150. So that gives you an idea of what type of number to put in. It's not the same as in your Word document where a font size of 12 kind of works in all situations. It will depend on the scale of your model. Now, sometimes we want to turn off all of the annotations. So there's two ways of doing that. If we go to annotations, you could untick all of these or tick some of them on or off. However, if you wanted to turn them all off, but kind of remember which ones you had on and off previously, there's kind of an overriding switch. If you go to plot, what to plot, you can turn them all off here. And then go make plot. This one's where if you do it twice, it should disappear. There we go. Similarly, we can tick them all back on. Let's just plot it again. There we are. There's one other update that we've done, and it was a small bug fix that was identified by Kevin, so thank you very much. It's when you're running Anaqsim in a sort of automatic fashion from the command line, the transient line condition outputs weren't being created when you had a steady state model. So if that rings any bells for you and you had problems automatically creating your sort of CSV file outputs for transient line conditions, then this version should have fixed that for you. That's all of the updates. Please do feel free to leave a comment below if any of these have been useful for you, or you think there's extra things that we could improve on, extra functionality that you'd like to see relating to these updates. Many thanks for watching.